Hello, good evening. I hope you are all good. So far we have learned on various techniques, the techniques such as the how do we perform the critical thinking and how do we set the goals and how to have a better notes and how to have the better reading comprehensions and how do we effectively categorize the data and how do we uh, perform the effective root cause analysis or the problem management skills and how do we prioritize the things. So today we are going to learn on the other techniques, okay, which is also a kind of a part of the critical thinking, which is the questioning techniques. How to have the better questioning and how to have the better attitude on the questioning and how to inculcate the behavior of the questioning each and every time or each and every data that you read. By default, how do we ensure that you do have the questioning uh, uh, brain always, and what is the importance of the questioning? See, the Albert Einstein mentioned his famous quote that if he has given a problem, he would think 95% of the time on the coming up with a better questioning, and remaining 5% of the time is spent on the solution. So he gives that much importance on the questioning. So which is also indicates the importance of the questioning on the overall problem. So if you take the problem management skills, okay, so when the first part is always the purpose, and you imagine the outcome, which means you set up the goals, and once you create the purpose and once you imagine the goals, the remaining part is the analysis. So that analysis, the precedence or the line part of the analysis is always to do with the how do we effectively perform the questioning. So the person's ability can be able to decide based upon how he posed the questions rather than how he provide the answers to the audiences. And it all depends upon your understanding is all depends upon how effectively you perform the questions. So one can easily say the great answers can be rendered only with the great questions. So, needless to say that one has to have such kind of a attitude to have always such kind of a questioning mentality. Okay, with these questions, you can always create an attitude of having an effective collaborations and break the ice in that environment and create that a creative atmosphere in your circles and always dispel the myth and dispel the ambiguity that you have around it with always the kind of a questioning that you always put in you. So we don't know how you will develop that kind of questioning, but always ensure that you create such kind of a questioning mentality in whatever you read or whatever you grasp it, and think about various scenarios and various types of questions that you have based upon the context that you have. So whatever be the scenario or whatever the context, the ultimate goal is to ensure that you do have the questioning mind whenever you read something. Okay, that will always give you an extra edge compared to others that they are actually doing the passive mode. Remember that you do have this effective reading comprehensions, that is SQ3T. The Q is nothing but questioning. So we are going to elaborate much on questioning. So whatever that you take the priority, you take the yourself, like how do we uh, perform the effective questioning. So here in this uh, video, I'm going to explain you the types of questionings. Okay, so the questions, of course, we know the questioning, but there are various types of questions that we have around us. If you can Google it, you would get a lot of scenarios. But I would come up with a simple formula. What are the types of questions, and so that you can easily remember it and understand and implement in your daily life. So if you can see that always questions in the childhood days, whenever the question means I used to remember a police. Okay, so the police nothing but a cop, right? So we can effectively categorize the questions into a cop methodology mode. Okay, so the COP. So it's the first C. The C is nothing but a closed end question. Okay, so the closed end question in the sense, the answers for that question is very simple, or it's very straightforward. I don't need to think too much. It is all factual based questions. Okay, all data related, statistics related questions. So, for example, anything that start with do or are or were, all those things. Okay, so for example, do you have a pen, or do you have siblings, or have you done this? Or was it really needed, or is it something that is really required? So these are all the questions that needs an immediate answers without much thinking. So those are called as the closed end questions. Okay, so which does not require any and so much deep thinking or the elaborative thinking, but it requires just a kind of a factual based answers, which is very much required time to time. That's a closed end based questions. There is the in the COP, the O is nothing but a open-ended questions. So it gives you a broader explanations for every questions that you have in the open-end questions category. For example, anything that related to like your five Ys or five Ws or one H, like for example, what or why or which one or the how, all those questions that starts with these things which needs an elaborative answers. Okay, suppose for example, if you wanted to get an extensive answers from the your colleague or your subordinate, these are the open-ended questions that will always be there to get a more elaborative answers. Okay, so it's actually not a factual based responses, but it's actually giving you a kind of a chance to others with exploring his own thinking, so that he will give his more explanations in this open-end questions category. So in the COP, the P is nothing but a probing questioning. Okay, like if C is nothing but a closed end, or it's a, and O is nothing but a open end, which give you a broader explanation, and P is a probing questions, which not only give you a broader but also deeper questioning, deeper. So one can easily go into the deep based upon the question that you put in a probing mode, or we can also call it as a processing. Okay, the more processing mode. Okay, so the probing mode is like you are actually not only going into the broader way, but also going to the deeper way. For example, you have a 5 by technology. Okay, the 5 by technology is nothing but, okay, it is finding out the root cause on top of the cause. Okay, so cause is something, a kind of a answer that you give, but the root cause is something that you will get based upon how you went into the deep side and come back with your root cause. So that's a probing question. So all kinds of scenarios. Okay, you take different kinds of scenarios. Now if you can Google it, you will see in the questioning different kinds of scenarios that you will have. Okay, so all those scenarios based upon these fundamental rules, which encapsulated with the methodology called COP. Okay, so those scenarios, it is kind of a, each scenario is kind of a package of closed end, open end, or probing or process related questions. Okay, so let me explain you. So what are the various scenarios that you have? For example, uh, okay, the COP is a kind of a three questions methodologies, three question types. So similarly, the scenarios, now the scenarios context, you can say that the leading kind of questions. Okay, so the leading questions is something like so the leading questions in the sense like, um, you do have something in your mind that you want others to lead. Okay, like for example, you have an IT manager, and you would like others to lead that project, right? So you already have something in your mind, and you wanted others to lead that project. So that is the leading questions. Like the questions are something like, okay, so why don't you do this project? Okay, so what is the problem that you have in terms of resolving those obstacles in that project? So these are the leading kind of questions that is kind of a questions that always your superior will always try to impose on you with the leading questions. Similarly, the loading kind of questions. Okay, there another scenario is the loading questions, right? So the loading questions, like it is better you will first find out like that kind of questions you will see more in the crime investigations or the police or the lawyers that they use the loading questions. I mean, the sense it has a deeper kind of a heavy weightage in that question, that it needs a lot of thinking. But if you do not have that capacity to thinking, you will end up with a factual based answers, right? So those are the loading based questions, which will be typically be skillfully be asked by lawyers or judges. Okay, that you can see in any kind of a thriller movies. You would see loading based kind of questions, which will again a combination of a very a closed based and open ended or probing related questions. In the similar way, you do have a kind of a recall based questions, right? For example, you're a teacher and you ask your student to get some information on the understanding that student have. So this called as a recall questions. So it's very effective in terms of revising your exams or before your speeches. So this recall based questioning is always very important. It's recall based also questions is also nothing but a reflective based thinking questions, reflective questions, right? How you reflect, so how do you understand after teacher mentioned or provided the teaching, how you understood or how you reflected the information. So this is a reflective based questions. It will give you, it will try to kind of overcome any kind of misunderstanding gaps or any kind of an issues that you have in understanding. So the reflective or recall based questions will always helpful. So which is also kind of a package of closed, open, or the probing questions. So similarly, you do have the rhetorical questions, right? For example, one speaker is there and he would like to entice the audience, and he would himself put some questions just to evoke those audience, which are, let's say, in the slumbing mode, sleeping mode. So they use these rhetorical questions, like for example, isn't it good, or how are you feeling? So even though he's not expecting any answers, but he would like to use those questions just to evoke the audience responses and to make sure that that environment is lively. So these are the different kinds of scenarios, right? Like different leading based and loading based, or rhetorical or the recall based. So in the final, we do have the funnel based questioning, right? So in the funnel based questioning, in the sense, there are two types of questioning you have. Okay, for example, so you see like yeah, so funnel based questions in the sense like um, you can use starting with a simple questions. You can use starting with simple questions, and then you go into the deeper technology, deeper dive, and then that is one way of funnel, a reverse funnel. Like for example, you start with the simple questions and go into deeper, and there is also a kind of you go with the deeper and then finally end up with the simple questions, right? For example, if I take an interview to others, I would start with a very simple questions with a very closed end questions, and then slowly I will open-ended questions, and then in the middle I will come up with the probing questions, and then again I will try to open questions, and then finally I will end up the interview with the closed based questions. So this is a funnel based questions. So it will be very effective if you could visualize that funnel mode and try to pose the questions and things fun. So these are all the way. If you can research it, you will see multiple scenarios of those kind of questioning technologies. But ultimately, you would know better on what is the context and what kind of questions that you need to frame based upon the context. Ultimately, whether irrespective of the scenarios, one has to develop that kind of a questioning technique to ensure that he extract information and influence and can be able to grasp more content and can be able to create more information, right? So in this way, one has to develop that questioning methodology, and I hope you get the point about the importance of the questioning, and we will see next time with a different technique. Until then, see you and have a great, better day. Thank you very much.